Here's an example of Engage from NiceJob. The Engage notification appears. We see a booking from Ken 6 days ago. When we click that notification, it takes us to recent reviews, and there's Ken's 5-star review. In just one click, your website visitor saw Ken's entire customer journey from booking to review. Engage notifications will also display recent reviews. When expanded, we see the platform the review is left on, a profile image if available, the amount of stars, and the text of the full review. Instant credibility that'll up your conversion rate. It's Engage from NiceJob. Welcome everybody in for another NiceJob live chat. I'm really excited to return to the NiceJob live chats, the Home Service Super Summit, threw off our broadcast schedule just a little bit. However, it gave me the opportunity to see our guest today speak and drop some great information. And I want to impart some of that information she released there, but also dive in a little bit deeper because her background and her story is really great for those that love the bootstrap sort of mentality, but also those that love to use the creative element of their brain along with the passion in their heart. Elena Ledoux joins me. Elena, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
And so I have the list of credentials here, and I actually wrote them down because an abundance of awards came your way recently. The SBA Small Business Association Small Business Person of the Year for the state of Nevada.
Yes.
The Entrepreneur of the Year for the National Association of Women Business Owners, and the Humanitarian of the Year Award. So I guess the first question is, are you just building award shelves left and right now? So many honors in one deal. So first, congratulations. But how's it feel to be recognized by these organizations?
I feel, it feels amazing. And I also feel like an imposter, of course. But yeah, it feels great because it really helps. At the end of the day, it really helps my business and helps the causes that I'm championing. So it gives me a platform to promote ideas that I believe are important. So I love that.
I mentioned in the opening, one of the reasons I wanted to speak to you was kind of matching the creative mindset with a passion in your heart. I took a look. You have a YouTube channel. You have some great videos up there. Obviously, I mentioned I saw you speak at the Home Service Super Summit. And a lot of what you talk about is kind of doing things that not necessarily you're passionate about. Like I grew up with a passion for cleaning. But a passion for connecting, helping other people, and providing a service. And Superb Maids was kind of a dual purpose in that. Can you tell us a little bit of the backstory about how Superb Maids came about and how you started that business?
Yeah, so my background is actually legal. I'm an attorney. I practiced law for 11 years, and then I retired. And then that's around the same time as my best childhood friend immigrated. I'm an immigrant, so my childhood friend whom I haven't seen for 15 years, she moved to US, and then she didn't speak English and she didn't have any money. So we were thinking about how to make $2,000 a month for her to cover her expenses. And without inputting a lot of money, like she didn't have anything to buy a building or lease it or anything. So, and it's funny, your company's name is NiceJob, and then she basically literally told me, like, can you find me a nice job or any job actually? So that's how Superb Maids got started. We just started vacuuming and using my own home supplies. We just started cleaning homes 5 years ago.
So a simple beginning, a passionate beginning nonetheless though. So you now are in the situation in beginning this business of many small business owners of, not only just getting it off the ground, but starting to grow it, make it more successful and turn it into something that not only could cover, the living expenses, you start with the wages of your friend, but obviously start adding more employees and building from there. I titled this talk, Pivoting, Press, and Publicity. I think publicity would almost be generally where to start first, because as I've heard you say a couple of times, you have this mentality of attack everything, which sounds really impressive, but it goes back to something that as a non-traditional marketer, as I like to identify myself, it's a lot of great tactics or strategies that are extremely cost effective because it's a lot of your hard work, but it kind of gets your business name out there and kind of starts you to grow. Can you take us through kind of step one of what attack everything encompassed?
Yeah, step one was research, actually, just understanding the market, because my other background is economics. And so I know that there's so many factors that influence buying decision. And there's no one for all recipe, so to speak, for success. There's some major principles, but at the end of the day, you have to research your own environment and see what works, what doesn't work. So before we even got started, I actually went on Yelp and on Google, and I read every single review for every single competitor of ours, just to understand what the pain points are, what are people happy about, what are they upset about, and what is it that they care the most. And there's a wealth of information out there from the reviews, right? And I know reviews are everything for you guys, and they're invaluable. It's gold, right? Imagine there used to be a world without reviews. I mean, how did people live and build their businesses or made purchasing decisions? So I read reviews, and that was step one. And then step two, we identified our values, and then we started kind of building the company around it, and trying to figure out what is it that works within which is Las Vegas area. And so we went out and we used word of mouth, and then we used Facebook. So we went on Facebook, and every single community group, there's garage sale groups that just started proliferating, and they were so popular. You have literally tens of thousands of people out there interacting, saying like, can you recommend a cleaner? Can you recommend this or that kind of community? And I literally started posting. I joined all of them, and I started posting in all of them very actively, to the point where I got banned from every single one of them. And that's when we got a bunch of jobs from that too, of course. And then that's when I realized that, it just works. And since then, I tried pretty much every single marketing avenue, to the extent that if it doesn't cost a lot of money, I would definitely give it a try, just to see if there's any traction. If there's any traction, I'll invest more effort and money into it. And that's kind of coming from non-marketing background. I had no experience in business, so I just wanted to understand what works, what doesn't work. And we just tested everything, and then just focused on the stuff that worked, and then discarded everything else.
I appreciate that you made sure to lead off with the research element. It wasn't fully, full steam ahead with kind of no knowledge. You made sure to talk about pain points in reviews. That's a great way to figure out, the very least, the bare minimum, like where your competitor's struggling, and that's a niche you could fill. So it might be the same service, but if you're, focused on being on time, or you're focused on, cleanliness while working, if you're focused on friendly staff, those keywords that pop out. The one thing I don't say I'll disagree on, but you said there's a time before reviews. I think there's always sort of reviews, just kind of like social proof, but it wasn't places necessarily to post it. But you hear about, some old markings on saloons and bars that would kind of tell you, that this place will feed you, or, this place will not let you tie up your horse. That's maybe the origins of your review of, it's kind of this, reputation, out prior. And I know you said that you've really focused on your reputation. Before we go too deep into that, how do you generally define reputation? Because there's so many different kind of takes on it. I'd be interested to see what you consider when you think about reputation.
Such a good question. For me, reputation for me as a person, and reputation for us as a company, is a perfect match between what we promise and what we deliver. Right. So I think in service areas, and even in personal life, it's critically important. There's a lot of promises, especially from marketing. We are so good at marketing, the Americans in general, they're great at marketing, that you make the buying decision, like you watch the infomercial at night and you're like, yeah, I need this boldness, male pattern boldness solution, even though I'm not even bold, I'm not even male, right? You want to buy all that stuff, and then you buy it, and then it doesn't work, and it's crap, and you just throw it away. And so to me, it's like reputation is the back end of that, where I'm buying this product and it's amazing. Or I'm buying this service and it's amazing, actually exceeds my expectations. So that kind of you have to match the expectation and the promise that you make. So our promise as a company is we're going to make you happy. So if you're not happy, even if you're unreasonable, or even if you're a super difficult client, if we fail to make you happy, you get your money back. And that's reputation.
And would you agree that reputation is, as much as you can try to instill your corporate values and have, what your principles in business, ultimately reputation is a percentage of how it is almost perceived by the public as well. And you talked about importance of reviews. In your own words, like, why are reviews so important besides just having, well, I got a great branding and I follow up my promises? Why is it important to have that social proof element?
It's validating quickly the decision to buy because, they're entrusting us with their home, with their children, with their properties, with their secrets. We know more about our clients than the priests do. So to have that level of trust, they would have to become friends with me and know me for like several years before they can trust that kind of level of trust. But if they see that hundreds of other people trusted us and they're happy about it, then like, okay, that's a shortcut. You kind of a herd mentality almost. And it works really well. And you can take advantage of that by generating. And I realized right away that reputation will be everything in this business. So we just very intentionally focused on that.
And so the second P in our conversational topic here, press, the PR side of it.
Yes.
You've been pretty savvy in finding ways to, appear in media and to get yourself out there. Does something come naturally? Was it also part of your research to figure out how the media cycle works? Can you just, we'll start diving in a little toe in the water here of kind of the press element of our conversation. Why was it important to you to get out there and be a part of that media cycle and to get press? And not only that, but to catalog it and to be able to use it later.
It establishes you obviously as an expert if you are on NBC.com or Today Show or, Reader's Digest. So we've been everywhere. And I think that's instant credibility. It's the same category as the reviews, basically, validating purchasing decision. Like those people are not going to be on national show or national newspaper or even local newspaper if they weren't experts, if they're like fly-by-night operations. So it has the same connotations. I mean, for me, I'm super cheap. I'm known for being really cheap. So PR generally is expensive. It's not a cheap proposition. And since we started, I never pursued PR. I pursued reviews very actively, but not PR. And so I kind of got accidentally thrusted into it by learning how to kind of navigate PR for free from one of the networking groups I'm part of for the maid service business owners. So I've heard presentation about how they do it, and they've been on CNN, they've been all over the place. And so I tried using the same tactics as they did, and it worked super well. We're like everywhere. So I was like, oh, that's great. It works. It's free. It's a great SEO value. It's a great validator. I can use all these articles to, you only in a newspaper one time, but then you can take a snapshot or download it, put it on your website. And all of a sudden, the people who are thinking about buying your service, they're like, oh my gosh, these guys are obviously knowing what they're doing. And, the funny thing is, like, I was on Yahoo News or something, maybe like last month. And there was tips about how to clean the bathtub. And so my coaching clients read this and they said, I bet she doesn't even know how to clean the bathtub. So she's, which is true. I didn't, right? I had to ask my staff how to do it. So it's all like perception. Obviously my staff knows how to do it. They know it really well. So however, last year I started winning all these awards. And one of my friends who's a really good publicist, she said, hey, you know what I recommend? I recommend that you hire a PR agent and you document your victories because, you only win this kind of stuff. It's honor, right? You win it once, but you get to keep that forever and document it, use it for business. So I listened to her. PR agents are not cheap. I mean, ours cost, I believe, $2,000 a month. I paid anywhere from between $2,000 to $5,000 to PR agents per month. That's a huge cost for me. But it was well worth it because literally we're in every single newspaper and magazine and TV station in Las Vegas. And in fact, my dad, who is an immigrant, he doesn't speak English very well. He went and he doesn't even know what I do, right? So he went to a gas station and he found me on the magazine cover. So he's like, oh my God, you're in the magazine. So he's like, I didn't know about it, right? So he just picked up the magazine, he brought it, and he was just all happy about it. I mean, that kind of stuff is priceless. And of course, it imprints, I always say, like, you need to tattoo your company's name on everybody's brain. And of course, it did that for us.
And that's a continuation of what you said earlier, posting it in Facebook groups, being active on social media in that regard is kind of the beginning of that brand awareness. And then, the publicity part, and then the press kind of further validates that.
Correct.
I know it's kind of a different level from, if you're able to hire, a PR agent or anything like that versus kind of like just trying to find press. But just in an overall sense, what are some of the challenges that maybe are overblown when it comes to like getting the press? So for example, I have always, consulted with some people and kind of told them if you just kind of call and pitch a story, they may not take it. But if you can get on that phone call, you get it. You never know when they would, because as I know some people who work in news and dabbled on the media side myself a bit, is sometimes you're just looking for something to break up the monotony. And especially time like now, it seems like it's the same story, a short story. Any other challenges or simple steps that you think that people can take just to get the ball rolling of just trying to get into their local paper, perhaps?
Yeah, I would say the main challenge is how to make it not about you or your company, how to make it about them and what actually their audience, right? Because that's what they're trying to do. They're serving their audience, make it educational, make it exciting, make it funny or sad, whatever you want, like emotional to trigger. And it's almost like being a psychologist to some extent and understanding psychology of those people who read that or watch that media. And then trying to pitch it from that angle in a very short, concise way, because they don't have any time. The journalists, they're really overworked and underpaid. So how to transmit that, kind of that you are valuable to them. You have the valuable information. It's not about you. It's about them, their audience, but do it in a very short and sweet message.
And if you do get there, get in the press, as you mentioned, like getting that highlight reel, you might have to do a little newspaper clipping yourself, or, you might have to, screen record if you're on the local news or something like that. But, that material has some life on its own. And where I'm generally going with this is that helps to build that trust as you kind of build it up. But ultimately, it's got to be ingrained in what your business is. And what I'm going for is I heard you, I think it was on your YouTube page, you talked about making decisions during, COVID-19 and how you started decisions. You kind of broke it down to 3 steps. And I'd like people to go to your page so you can see the full breakdown. But just the high level. You talked about that you make decisions based on your principles, decisions based on facts, and decisions based on perception. So as COVID-19 started to, it grew, came and started impacting all around, how did you decide to start either making a pivot or how did you decide of figuring out where the need now was for your clients in your community? Like, where did you start figuring out, like, all right, well, where is the need?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I always pride myself on being very resilient. I'm an immigrant. I've been through a lot in my life. And I thought if something like that strikes, I'll be like really strong and awesome. But actually, I went like in the fetal position for the first for a couple of weeks, I think, of this. And just basically, oh my God, the world is ending. Look at our industry. Look at all my friends. I was just a mess. But afterwards, I realized that, okay, like now that it's still continuing and there's no end to it, I got to do something about it. Like, what can we do? And the main thing was like, how can I act in a way that I'll be proud of myself later? Because I know this is not going to last forever. So someday I don't want to be ashamed of how I behaved, right? Yeah. So I was like, I need to pull myself together, make the good decisions on behalf of my company, on behalf of my family, on behalf of myself. And one thing that was very damaging to us is the hysteria. And I have a lot of respect for media. And I think at that time when there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of tragedy, I mean, obviously people were concerned and they watched. So the audience dictated the fear, right? So they watched a lot of fearful things. And I remember at some point, there was like a peak of hysteria where everybody's saying, you're all going to die. You're going to die. Stay home. You're going to die. You're killing your grandmas, So, and of course, there's a lot of truth to it. But also there was a counterpoint that was never even, out there. And the biggest question was like, are you even an essential business? What's essential business? Like nobody knows what's essential. Do you remember that whole thing? Like who is essential, who's not, right? So it was like this kind of chaos and soup of emotions. And I did some research and I talked to medical professionals and looked at our local Vegas situation. And I decided that we are actually essential and we are needed. And actually medical professionals were asking me, please do not just like fold and quit and like who's going to kill all the viruses, right? If not you guys, right? Just do not go away. We need you. So we're like, all right, we're essential. But then there's a lot of fears. Like even if we are essential, how does it look? how does it make us look that we keep going and we're like endangering ourselves, endangering our staff, our clients? Like, what are we gonna? Are we gonna be perceived as evil or part of the problem, right? Or even like everybody was frozen about ordering any kind of service, home service, indoors or especially indoors, but even outdoors, people like, I just don't want to order anything. And so then I realized that there needs to be a counterpoint to that big, massive inflow of information that's all negative. And I wanted to show why we're essential. First of all, we are essential. We're not evil. We're helping. We're in your corner. So once that got kind of formulated, I'm like, I need to go and talk about it. And so I was like on all the news, and actually that story was very easy to pitch because it was so easy. Like people wanted to hear something else besides like you're all gonna die, right? So that was like the pitch, and like everybody just picked it up right away, like in local media. So I went on and I was talking about how we are essential, what are we doing, and we started cleaning. We did a lot of community projects, and that came from our experience after the Mandalay Bay shooting. That Vegas survived. Like this is the worst massacre in our city's history. So we stepped up and we're part of a community effort. We were cleaning first responders' homes for a couple of months for free, and that made us feel so much better, and that helped us heal, right? And we're really proud of that. Our staff is really proud of that. And so now, like looking at Corona situation had the same connotations. A huge tragedy for us, especially being like a tourism center of the United States, right?
Yeah.
So it's a devastating event for us. And so I was like, okay, we can do the same thing, just be on the side of helping our community. So we just jumped up and started swimming, started paddling, like move your paws is one of the things that I always say, or like, buffalo running against the thunderstorm. It's another like analogy I always use. So we kind of started doing that. Although I felt like I'm a very tiny buffalo running against like a really huge storm, right? Tiny cow, not even a buffalo. But we did it and it worked, and media loved us for it. In fact, one of the things we started doing, speaking about pivoting, is we started delivering groceries. Mm-hmm. Because when I talked to one of the clients who was canceling our store, was actually postponing it. She was saying like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like you can take my money, but I'm afraid to have anybody in our house. And I'm actually afraid to go out and buy even groceries because I have kids at home. I have elderly people at home. I'm trapped. Something like she said, like, I'm trapped. I'm stuck at home. And actually, I don't know if I even was talking to her. I read the message from our staff. And like once we hung up with her, I was thinking like, that's a horrible situation to be in. You're fearful for your life or life of your family. You need to go buy groceries, but you're not going to starve to death, right? All the Instacart, all these, remember that period where all of them were down at the same time?
Yeah.
Costco, like you can't buy anything. It was just a pandemonium. And so I said, hey, we can do that. We can do that. And like, even if they can't afford us, like we can just do it for free. Like just pay for the groceries. We'll bring the groceries to you. And people who can afford it, like my husband, he wanted to get beer from across town. He was so happy that we can just send somebody over who is masked and uniformed and, and is obsessed with disinfection to begin with. Just going to come and bring him his favorite beer. He was delighted by that. So you have people who can afford it and pay for it, people who cannot afford it and still get it. And then we clean first responders, safe house. There's a house, and just somebody tagged us and they said, Elena, like we have this thing for nurses and doctors who are self-isolating to protect their families. And that home needs to be cleaned and disinfected and fogged. Can you guys help out? And I was like, sure. So we started doing that. And that was all over the news, had like almost 500,000 views for that piece of media or even more, because it was on all the local news and it got shared because it was good news. Finally, there's something good that's coming out of this, right?
Yeah, breaking the cycle.
That.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we did this.
It's interesting to know you brought up the obviously the tragedy at Mandalay Bay. You talked about stepping up for your community at that point. Did you feel any sense of your community starting to look to you again as COVID kind of went? Because I mean, I assume that you've now kind of built yourself as a pillar of your community that goes beyond. Would you say that most of your clients probably weren't surprised by your pivot because you kind of already made that a part of your culture to be a part of the community?
They probably weren't. I would say the coronavirus pandemic was such a strong shock to our system and to all of my friends who are business owners. We're kind of dazed, honestly. Nobody there was no expectation. Everything got down to zero, right? Zero expectations. Like, what are we going to do? People were completely like, I had people unplug out of everything and just like go silent, go dark, like business owners. Because they're like, I own like coffee shops, I own restaurants, I own a spas. Like, what am I going to do now? Like, what's going to happen to my, because the whole identity was in their business, right? It's like the heart and their soul in their business. Suddenly everything got just frozen. And so I don't think anybody were thinking, hey, who is here who can help with the community? But literally when you start rising and like actually slowly getting up and like kind of like walking by like, not even pivoting or riding or being strong, but just kind of slowly starting to get up and walking towards the sunlight, I think people just really cheered for us wholeheartedly. It was amazing.
And how much also like input with your staff and your management when you go to developing this new service? Because there might be a fear or concern among your own staff as well. Kind of offering new service. Was it a harder sell? I mean, you rally around. Was it just you kind of knew you had the right people, or was it about because you've always had a business that was focused on safety and protecting your employees that it just was now to them just another task, not necessarily a big change for them? How was it selling it to your employees and staff that you were going to make this pivot to do grocery delivery?
It was very interesting because our whole philosophy for our company is employee centric. So our employees choose their schedule, for example. They tell us when they go, like as long as they give us notice, they can tell us like, okay, I'm going to not work like for the whole 3 months in summer. I'm going on vacation, right, to Mexico or something. And fine, go. Or like next week, I'm not working, not like so 2 weeks from now, I'm not working because I'm going to a school recital or I'm going to take care of my dog or something like that. So people have their own flexible, because I wanted them to have a life. Because I feel like if they have a life and they're happy, they're not stressed out, they can do a much better job. Right. So when this thing started developing, first of all, we didn't even know if we can ask our employees to go into this danger now. Right. So and then when I researched, and it's actually not that dangerous there around that time in Las Vegas, after talking to some research and doctors and nurses, it wasn't that dangerous, but it was still some risk of exposure, of course. I recorded some videos. And I posted on our company Slack and I told them like, hey guys, here's the situation. So I broke it down for them. I said, this is what's happening. This is the risk. This is what I think is going to happen. But actually, I don't know. And I was like, not wearing makeup. I was like sitting on the ground. So I was like a very pitiful, sight. But I said, I know you guys, like we always trust you with, making the right decision, right? So I want you to make that decision. If you want to work, if you need jobs, I want every one of you make the decision on behalf of your company and yourself. Do you want to work and do you want to do this thing or do you not? Like either way, I respect you and I'll support you, right? So, and I posted and a few employees were like, yeah, on behalf of my family, I would rather sit it out and fine, you can sit it out. But then other employees were like, no, majority of them were like, no, we want to keep going, we want to do this, we want to do that. Thank you. We just need masks. And I'm like, well, we already have masks. So that's part of we already had protocols. Like everybody ran out and had to buy masks and like gloves and booties and all this stuff. We already had all that stuff because we deal with germs to begin with, right? Mm-hmm. So it's part of our normal protocol, but we stepped it up and we actually demanded that everybody wear masks at all times now, not just like when they spray things. So that part was super easy. Just kind of, I left the decision up to them. And I said the same to our clients. I sent an email and I said, hey, this is what's going on. This is how we view it. So if you guys want us, if you need us, because a lot of them, they're like emergency room physicians, for example. You can't expect them to go work like 2 shifts and then come back and clean the home and kill the viruses and germs at the home, right? It's just not going to happen. So but then on the other hand, you have some elderly who are vulnerable and they have level like heightened risk. So I said, like, why don't you guys make a decision on your own and we'll make decision on our employees. And then as long as we have one customer and one employee who still want to do this, like we will help. If nobody wants to do it, that's fine. I'm not going to force anybody into, anything. And we had a huge amount of people who were like majority of our customers and majority of our employees wanted to continue on.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that you talk about, you didn't say, oh, this is exactly what we need, we're going to force it through. It's also figuring out from both sides, making sure your employees want to do it so that you're making the proper impact, but then really considering, all right, is this something that they need? Or while it's logically makes sense. Everyone's fearful of going out, so let's provide what's coming in. Is, I know as having some high risk family members, my own household here is we kind of evaluate and make sure we look through. And I'm sure having experience with, some of your employees before, if I was one of your clients, and seeing how you deal with the safety protocol from cleaning would kind of give me that little peace of mind. I've heard you say before that you don't really like doing things twice in a sense. Obviously, we all know that implementing systems into your business is crucial.
Yes.
In your opinion, is there a way to systemize or have almost a small base system when it comes to developing plans to pivot? I mean, obviously, there's going to be new things. Like you had to make a new video explaining this situation for your employees, but is there something that people that, if they're a newer business and COVID is their first, oh my God, my business just got punched in the face, what do I do? Is there a way or are there things that you can implement that help to kind of develop the next time you may need to pivot your business?
I think it's tough because I feel like systems are helpful when you have repeating situation that you're trying to repeatable pattern. But so much about Corona is kind of new to us. Some of it is not, but 90% of stuff that's happening right now, that never happened before. Probably not going to happen again. I mean, so at least in my company's experience, right? So it's kind of like you fly and you're learning, what is it? You build the airplane as you fly it sort of thing. Yeah. But now that we've been through first round of washing machine cycle, now we can start coming up with the systems. What do we do? What do we say? So everything starts getting documented, as you said, there's a video explaining it, there's text explaining it, and kind of you need to quickly standardize the procedures, right? Because every time, I don't like relying on human memory, because every time you do that, the one thing that's guaranteed is somebody is going to fail at that. So that's why the minute you stuff that's important that's starting to happen, you document it in paper and on paper or online. It has to be in a very short, accessible, and concise language, and then you can propagate it throughout social media and your staff and your clients. Everyone's on the same page. Hey, if you cough, do not call us, right? If we cough, we will not come, right? So it's just as simple as that, but just put it out there and stick to it. And there's certain things that, for example, we have existing systems where we have company meetings in the office that got unplugged immediately, right? So you just have to start shifting your systems right away and building new systems once you understand what's actually happening.
Yeah. Sorry, okay, out there.
No, it's yes. I'm all about systems. I love systems, but I feel like systems are good. This is kind of a time to improvise almost, and to quickly to restructure. You have to restructure all your systems and build new systems. And even with, let's say, loans and all these loans that came out, which were amazing, from heaven, right? Just like a grace. That situation was developing so fast too. You're all right, so I want to systemize this, our response. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. The minute you decide that, it's oh, here's the new legislation. You're all right, I'm going to do this and that. And and then finally, I just give up. I'm going to wait it out and see what happens before I create a new system, right? So it's comical.
Well, perhaps it's almost more so the benefits of having systems that allowed you the time to focus in on the new and the undetermined just yet. So you didn't have to worry about the fact that you were doing so many other things that when the new, a pivot needed to happen, or even just, rolling out a new service, it wasn't now what else were you sacrificing? The rest was systemized. So you knew you kind of, when you're implementing new data into the system, so to speak, you knew how it was going to run. You kind of knew what to expect from it. One thing I want to talk about with pivoting is I think it's almost a very logical thought that when there was a lot of fear and uncertainty, to kind of go against that grain with a message of positivity and hey, here's what we do know. We have these safety protocols, so we know they'll be effective, for A, B, and C here. Do you think that that's always kind of the formula for a pivot? Is it always against the grain, or do you think that it's almost determining of what's best based on what you're built for? So you don't need to pivot just to pivot. It's got to be something that's in your natural lane, even if it's, in this instance, it was against the grain, but was more appropriate for your business. So is it important to always find out the narrative and go the other way, or more often than not, are pivots general offshoot of the same stream?
The way I try to think about things is more like, what's the goal? Like, I know you mentioned something about sports. So when you play a game, what are you playing for really? I'm not playing to play, I'm playing for a prize, right? So for a goal, for a victory. And I'm completely not a sports person, so I can't give you a good analogy. But I know I would never ever play without understanding what is it I'm aiming for. So when you try to pivot, like think about why you're pivoting. What are you trying to accomplish? And sometimes maybe you don't need to pivot. Maybe you can accomplish everything. Like a lot of times people tell me like, just chill, Elena, like for a second, just chill and then things will come your way, right? So, and it's hard for me to do that. But ultimately, if I can achieve the result that I want by just chilling and not doing anything, I will do that. I would lay on the couch for 4 hours straight if I know that something will happen my way and I don't have to push it and force it. And 4 hours is sufficient deadline for me. But a lot of times that's not the case. So if I'm in this crisis and what I want basically for my business to survive this pandemic, that's my goal, to survive, to be profitable, to keep my employees, to keep my customers, right? How do I achieve that? Can I achieve it by not doing anything? Didn't seem likely, right? So what's right now breaking down? What's informationally, there's a lot of pressure for me to shut down, for example, the community pressure to shut down, like the perception of it is very negative. So I need to address that. So how do we address it? Can I address it by not doing anything or keep doing what we're doing? No, because then we get attacked or something like that, right? So people were afraid, like all the service business owners were like, I'm even afraid to be out there because people are going to attack me, right? So that's not going to work. So that forces you to pivot now. So the pivot is like a causation, not causation, but it's a result caused by whatever your goal is and where you are right now. So I'm here in the middle of pandemic. My goal is to survive and thrive. How do I do that? What needs to happen? I don't care. I can pivot as many times as I can or have to, as long as I get to reach my target. I'm not going to pivot just because I'm super lazy. I'm not pivoting for no reason. It's a lot of work, right? So, yeah.
No, that's good. It's kind of the cause-effect cause, or the effect-cause effect.
Yes.
Of something that effect that causes you to kind of have to pivot and kind of go back there. Well, Elena, I appreciate you spending some time with us today, this afternoon, wherever you might be watching this from. It's really kind of great information. I see your assistant in the background there, letting me know that I'm running a bit long. But I also, you just joined. We have you involved in our NiceJob Heroes user group here. I'm hoping you won't attack everything. I don't want to add our group to the ones that you're banned from before. But I say that in jest. But if you had any questions for those watching this, post it in the group. Elena's a part of it now. Might not respond kind of right away. She's got a lot going on. We'll make sure to forward any specific questions or anything that they had, to you, so you can find out and get some answers to those questions. But some amazing information here. And Elena, it really was a pleasure to talk to you. Like I said, I saw you speak a couple times, and it was great to finally be able to kind of do it face to face. Beyond just posting any comments on the thread here, if someone wanted to reach out to you, contact you, what's the best way to network with you?
I'm usually on Facebook. Sometimes I'm on Quora as well. So people ask me questions on Quora. I have like almost 75 million views now on Quora. So I'm there a lot normally. And I'm also a lot on Facebook. Jed. I have a little monkey. Yeah.
Well, I know the audience would love to see more of the show that looks like it's about to happen right there. But
yes.
Elena, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll definitely keep an eye on what's coming next for you guys, and what might be coming next.
All right, thanks so much.
We can see the show from the other side here. Who's this popping in now?
It's Jed. It's my 8-year-old. Jed, stop. I'm actually on Facebook Live. This is so bad. Right. You didn't know this was going to happen, did you?
Hey, we're prepared, and we'll pivot from there. But Elena, thank you very much, and hope we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
All right, thank you. Jed, you're such a monkey.